What you are about to see is some serendipitous video sent to me by some geologists and some gold miners, believe it or not. There's gold in their creeks. Maybe at first I think there might have been a little hesitancy to release these films because some fools are going to go wade in the creek after seeing this video and see what they can find. But these people have sworn the creeks here off in East Palestine. They're not returning. But they were fairly productive. You're not talking about big gold nuggets, but flakes of gold, pretty good. But what you're going to see are these prospectors frolicking in the creeks, digging in the banks, sifting through the sediment, walking and searching through the mud and water. In the fall of 2022, remember the derailment and rainbows with all the bullshit EPA phrased legacy chemicals that existed in the creeks long before the derailment happened in February 3rd of 2023. You're going to see here just a couple or a few short months before this town suddenly was inundated with beautiful Willy Wonka rainbow chemicals in the creeks. Isopropyl benzene, which breaks down into a metabolite of amethylstyrene, a genotoxic carcinogen that will enter your cells and mutate your DNA and make you very sick if you touch, breathe, or ingest. But that was all there before. These prospectors are willing to testify that they've never seen any type of sheen, any type of rainbows, any type of discoloration in the creeks while prospecting for gold in East Palestine, Ohio. You are going to see these prospectors' faces in the water. You are going to see video shot of the creeks just inches from the water. You will see them digging and no chemicals. In fact, what they tell me is if they saw anything even slightly resembling what we see today in our creeks, they would have reported it. They would have got out of the creek immediately and have wondered, as anybody else would, what the hell that shit is in the creeks. The EPA have turned out to be criminals. They are aiding and abetting a criminal act. They know better. They know what's going on. It is disgusting to see it happen in your own town. You hear things like this, but you just wave it off as crazy people talking. It's all conspiracy. It's all hoopla. Well, wait till it happens in your town and you see the bullshit lies. All for corporate greed and all the intertwined tentacles tying into our government. They're putting the town at risk while protecting a very powerful multi-gazillion dollar corporation. Enjoy the video, people.
You also have to remember that we did a thorough assessment already of Leslie Run and Sulphur Run, and the levels of contaminants don't look much different than they did pre-derailment.
This is Matt Hospodar's site. Here's his YouTube channel, The Prospecting Geologist. You can check it out. Here's Matt digging in the bank in Leslie Run, just a few months before the derailment, when all the chemicals were released into the creek. This is me showing Senator Vance the chemicals in the bank as I just poke a stick into the bank. This was probably 6 months after the derailment, and it had been like that since the day of the derailment. Chemicals just spew out of the bank and in the creek bed when you dig into the creek. Notice the difference between this obvious amount of noxious chemicals coming out of the plant life and soil, and now look at Matt digging in the bank, digging in the water. Look at the clarity of the water as he sifts and he pans for gold. There is no rainbow. There are no chemicals to be seen. The EPA claims that these chemicals were here before the derailment. That is a ludicrous and insulting lie to all the residents of East Palestine, Ohio. Look at the clarity of the water in his pan. And notice that when he was sifting in the creek, he was bringing up no chemicals from the creek bed. Here we have Tom Young, a prospector, and his children in the creek. There is no way, if they saw any type of chemicals coming out of the creek, that they would have their children in the creek. This is me filming at nearly the exact spot in Leslie Run. This is post-derailment, and any rock I turned over, chemicals came out. They tell me that if they saw anything like this, they would immediately remove their family and their equipment from the creek and report it to officials. Here we see them wading in the creek, chest high. Here's a shot of the creek. Notice that they walk through the creek. Here is one of their dredging units. You can see the clarity of the water through the tube, the clarity of the water coming through the machine. Imagine if we had that machine now, all the chemicals that it would pull up out of the creek bed. Here is a shot of prospector Willie Armstrong showing that he was actually snorkeling in the creek. Look at that water coming out of the machine. What we do with the simple broomstick, imagine having this machine, how many chemicals would come out. The water is very clear here. This is pre-derailment. These are Tom's kids. More shots of the dredging machine. Here's me kicking up some chemicals in probably within 50 feet of the spot that they were prospecting. This is in Leslie Run. And you can see the chemicals just spewing out from me just moving my foot in the creek bed. And here is more shots of the chemicals coming out. Mark Durno, the EPA liaison for East Palestine, Ohio, claims victory as he says that the creeks are now nearly pre-derailment status. I could not disagree with him more passionately. All through this crisis, we have been asked by Norfolk Southern and the EPA to believe what we tell you, not what you see. This is 11/27/23. As of yesterday, the creeks were still filled with chemicals. Here they are walking through the creek with multiple machines now. Tom Young with his children and Willie Armstrong, another prospector, is in the creek as well. I want to thank the geologist, Matt and Willie and Tom, the prospectors and their children. I want to thank them for coming forward with this video. There are, I believe, literally hours of video footage of the pre-derailment creek. I believe this is in October. So you've got November, December, January, February. Anywhere between no more than 4 months and possibly 3 months pre-derailment. They are digging, disturbing, turning over rocks, walking through, wading through the creek. With no chemicals coming up. Here's just another shot of me. My friend Jake Koza is upstream, turning over rocks, and I am filming what is coming down. This is in Leslie Run, nearly the exact spot that the prospectors were just a few months prior. This is the white milky substance that you would see floating under the surface. I estimated thousands of gallons of this being released into our creeks post-derailment. My tests showed isopropyl benzene, methyl cyclohexane, and cyclohexane.
You also have to remember that we did a thorough assessment already of Leslie Run and Sulphur Run, and the levels of contaminants don't look much different than they did pre-derailment.
Here we have another beautiful shot of our Leslie Run Creek pre-derailment. Here's a great illustration of how clean the creeks were. Here they are sucking sediment out of the bank. You can hardly tell that that was water. And this is a post-derailment shot, just shot recently, of Leslie Run. And here he is sucking more sediment into the tube. You don't see any of the chemicals. You don't see the white substance. You don't see the rainbows. They are disturbing the sediment and water much more than we ever could with our simple tools. Notice the clarity of the water as it flows through this sifter. And here's Tom's kids playing in the creek. No, hey daddy, what is all this stuff coming out of the rocks and out from under my feet? No, they're just very comfortable having a good time in the crystal clear water, enjoying the fun. Tom has told me they will never be coming back here. I wonder what Willie would think if I told him the chemicals were there already. Well, that must be his answer. And we see no chemicals in the water. This is Leslie Run. I'm going to say about 3/4 of a mile upstream from where they are. This is in the park. This is me disturbing the soil and the creek bed and turning over rocks in Leslie. So it makes you wonder if the legacy chemicals were there, which the EPA is trying to get us to believe. Why didn't the prospectors or the geologists see anything even remotely close to that? The EPA keeps saying that the chemicals that we are seeing could be some kind of biological aberration and not chemicals at all. Well, no matter what they are, why didn't these prospectors see them and why didn't they film them? The answer is simple. What I call chemical and the EPA calls biological wasn't there pre-derailment. Just showing the clarity of the water here. More of the same. And then here's more of the same. Look at the water coming out of their sifter or whatever this machine is. I mean, obviously it's pulling sediment out and then sending it down with the water down through. No chemicals coming out of that machine. It's just pure water. So the EPA and Norfolk Southern want us to believe our creeks were highly contaminated prior. That's just not the case. Here we have Matt in another part of Leslie. This is the geologist. And you can see the clarity of the water. I believe he's going to grab his shovel and start digging. So, no chemicals as he digs through the sediment here. Again, this is Leslie Run. Crystal clear water. And I'm not saying that any waterway or any creek in the United States isn't contaminated with something. I'm not saying these creeks were 100% free of anything prior to the derailment. But to say our creeks currently are back to pre-derailment status, and to say that these chemicals were already there anyway, it's insulting. So here I am in Leslie kicking up more chemicals. Can you imagine if Tom Young with his children saw this when they were prospecting for gold? You can clearly see in their videos there's no evidence of anything like that. But they would have hightailed it out right out of the creek. You know, when people lie, you usually get caught in the long run. It was just very serendipitous. Who would have ever thought that these geologists and these prospectors would be in the very same place? This is just me. This is in Leslie Run taking samples. Probably, I don't know, it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. And you can see the chemicals boil out as soon as I turn over a rock. This is the same area of Leslie Run that the prospectors were prospecting for gold. And just another shot of the prospecting geologist. Catch him on YouTube. I think this may be the final shot. There's hours of video, but I think everybody gets the point. We're being railroaded here. And this was me in Leslie Run using a shovel. This was, I think, in October. The guy standing next to me is a news reporter. And you can just see the rainbows and chemicals. This is just a few short weeks ago. And again, this is November 27th, today, shortly after Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving weekend. So this was just shot a few weeks ago. And I believe this may be the final shot, just illustrating that if this geologist would have seen anything like that in the creek, he would have reported it. And I think we have, lastly, a last parting shot. This is Sulphur Run, shot a couple weeks ago. The reason I included this was because Mark Durno held that press conference just a couple weeks ago talking about how good Leslie and Sulphur Run both look. This is right where it's going to enter into the tunnels. You can see the shadows of a person's home that these chemicals run right under. And still, the EPA cannot figure out how people can still be getting sick. So once again, I want to thank Matt, the prospecting geologist. Check him out on YouTube if you want to know how to pan for gold. If you want to know how to pan for chemicals, check me out on YouTube at Chipod. And I want to thank Willie Armstrong. And I want to thank Tom Young, the prospectors, for coming forward and sharing these videos. I'm going to imagine they're probably going to be asked to testify on the state of the creeks prior to the derailment. I would be very surprised if they were not. Thank you so much to all of you